Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. And today, listeners, I've got Jenny Schmal from, is it South Africa you're in, Jenny?
Yes, it's Johannesburg, South Africa.
Brilliant. Okay, so quite a long way further south from the UK, but lovely to speak to you.
It's lovely to be here.
Today, we're going to be talking about being able to find the love of your life, regardless of what age you are, because I know that there are some women out there that think that they're beyond 40 or 50 years old, that, you know, life has passed them by and love isn't going to be available to them. But both Jenny and I know that that's not the case, don't we, Jenny? Because we are women of a certain age. I'm happy to say that I'm 60 years old and know that I can attract quite a few high value, good quality men to me. And Jenny, you're equally confident in that, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I turned 71 in April. And for me, why not be able to date, have relationships, and consciously choose someone that you'd like to be in a relationship with at any age? We're alive, and aliveness is all we need.
Absolutely. I can remember, actually, my grandma, she's passed now, but my grandma, she got remarried at the age of 77. You know, and had a happy, healthy second marriage on the back of that till she passed away. And I just know, you know, and I have never had any doubt that I would always, regardless of what age, be able to attract, you know, a high quality man in my life if that's what I choose to do.
And your granny was a wise woman.
So for you then, Jenny, what wise words do you have of women? For women, I should say, around, you know, the age being a barrier for them in terms of their mindset?
Well, I think we can, you know, bust those myths. The people that I speak to, or certainly that I have as clients from time to time, they always say, I'm too old, I'm too ugly, and I don't know how to attract anybody. And I think that we have become lazy creators. So when we're looking to, you know, look for a relationship, look to be in a relationship with somebody, as women, we are just looking for something like tall, dark, handsome, looks like George Clooney, and maybe lives in, you know, down the road or in another country or whatever it is. We don't really go into the specifics of aligning who we are with this mate that we're looking for.
Okay, so when you talk about aligning who we are, can you give our listeners and audience members an insight as to what you actually mean by that?
Yes, most. So I'll give you an example. We'll call her for today Claire. Client called Claire says that she wants to meet somebody who's tall, who lives in her area, who doesn't smoke, and who loves rock music and going out on a Sunday. And then when she comes to see me, she says, actually, I like George and he lives in my complex or my apartment block. And I say, well, what is George like? And she says, well, he's short. He's a bit of a hermit. He's not fond of dogs. He's not really an outgoing person. So you see, there's the misalignment there. What we think we want is some kind of conditioned response that we read in novels or on dating sites. And what we really should be looking for is having perhaps seven or five at least, certain values that we want of the man that we want to consciously create, which means invite into our lives. So does that help?
Yes, definitely. So for the benefit of the audience, what would be examples of those sorts of values?
Well, everybody I've spoken to says, when I go to the values, they say, well, yes, he must be loving. He must go to the gym, but I'm not speaking about that. How about we start with, is he available? Does he have baggage? Is he connected to somebody else? Because then if he is, he's not available. Is he healthy? We never asked that. How's his health? Because then you may be inviting somebody who has, and not through the fault of their own, but you'll be, part of this. Maybe they have some kind of health impediment. Is that what you really want? Are you willing to be the nurse? And then one that we hardly ever look at as women is he financially independent or stable? So does this person, and if you don't mind and you have finances, well, you could look after them, but does he have a job? Is he financially stable? If he's retired, is he financially stable? So those three, I think, are very, very important. The available, financially independent, and healthy for a start. And then we would add in things like, is he kind? Is he funny? Because we don't want somebody that's got a long face and just going to smoke his pipe and sit and read his paper. And I'm not being facetious. I'm being serious, because suddenly they'll say to me, but he was fun on that day, but now he's not. Well, we need to put that out there up front as a conscious decision. So we actually choosing the prince instead of just accepting whatever comes along because we feel like we are not able to be in a relationship of what you just said there, of an ideal mate, of standing, or what I call alignment with the energy that we are. If I'm this energetic, bold 71-year-old, and I am, it's no use me attracting somebody that's quiet, doesn't want to go out, and doesn't say much, because I want to communicate. I want to talk, So on my list, communication would be very high.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is important to think about, shared values and what it is in terms of not just being thinking that just because we are a woman of a certain age that any man will do. It isn't going to be a mindset for long-term relationship if you're thinking, well, I just want a man, any man will do just because I'm feeling lonely. We just want to get into the mindset that, we are worthy, we are of high value, we are this sexy, independent person, and any man would be, absolutely really lucky to have us in his life, and come from that energetic field of mindset, isn't it?
Yes, and I love how you said that, and it reminds me, I read in a book once, and it said, "Stop kissing frogs." And all that means is that if you're a princess, you're not going to be kissing a frog, because he doesn't turn into a prince. So in today's world with online dating and the internet, we have to be a little bit more careful. We also have to be a little bit more creative and really say what it is we're looking for. And when we say there aren't any men out there, that is such a lie, because there are millions of women in the age group of 50 to 70, some at 80 are still dating. And so there are men. There are definitely men out there. It's how we go about putting ourselves across. And especially if we're looking at the dating industry, which I think last year, and I can be corrected, I think it was $2.1 billion was spent on dating sites. So, signing up to dating site, paying your monthly fee. So there are people out there on dating sites looking to be introduced to people. And I think it's more about, because on a dating site, remember, the algorithm is choosing for you. So you'd better be precise in saying who you are, what you would like, and who you want to be connected to. And I think that's a big thing for women, is to know, this is who I am. I'm not just the retired, professional that's not working anymore, whatever it is for you. Really look at what makes you tick. And I know you a little bit, Lyn, and I've been on a few of your challenges, and I know you to be this very bubbly, bold, beautiful, expressive woman, and not scared to say who you are and the message and contribution that you bring to others with the service that you do. So you'd be looking for a specific type of man to, let me explain it this way, to complement you.
Yeah, to match that same sort of level of energy.
Exactly, yes. So that you're both on the same page. And you don't both have to be the same personality, but it's a complementary one. You are pretty fine as you are, and so am I. And we can live alone, but we don't have to. Why? We weren't born to be alone, were we?
No. But it's creating, I suppose, helping people create a mindset around knowing that they already are the recipe that's created a great cake of life for themselves. And any man that you attract is going to be the cherry on top, so it's taking responsibility for your own happiness first, isn't it? And being comfortable with that, and seeing single life as being preparation for attracting that cherry.
And that's so absolutely true. You're just the cherry on top. And I think when we're looking for a new partner, if we become the energy of the partner we're looking for, and by that I mean, if you're looking for somebody who's vibrant, who's healthy, who's kind, who's loving, who's energetic, who's available, and who's financially independent, even in a small way, then you must be sure that that's what you are, because that's how you will attract that kind of person. You will attract the values that you are. So if your highest value is travel, for instance, your top 5 values, your highest value is travel, don't find somebody whose value is not travel in the first top 5 values, because it won't fit.
No.
And the first time you say, honey, I'd like to go to California, he's going to say, no, I don't want to travel.
Yeah. Especially if they've got an aversion to flying or sailing.
Exactly. So I also think women can do a values determination test, and there's some very good ones, and perhaps we can find an easy one, because your values also evolve as you do, and as your age evolves, values evolve. So my top value used to be laughter. It still is, but it's moved down to position 3. My top value is travel. So even if it's just travel to the city, to walk across a bridge and have a glass of champagne. So can you see that the values do come into it?
Yes. Yeah. And like you say, they do chop and change over time as to what's your highest priority. Definitely.
Exactly. Yes. And in the 30s and the 40s, I know I was born in the 40s, late 40s, 49. And in that era, everybody smoked, for instance. Everybody smoked. They just come out of the war. It was a time of making babies, smoking, dancing, having a few pints at the local pub and enjoying life. And that was what they wanted. Now, fast forward to where we are now, those values don't exist anymore. People are survival this year is the top value for anybody, I think. So, it's survival, and then comes the other things. So if we look at the values just in a 6-month period and we say, well, my values changed. In that relationship, my value was that. For this relationship, it's changed a little, and I need to look at that.
Certainly true. And I think sometimes we can be a bit flexible. I can remember, in a previous relationship, I was looking for a guy because I had this mindset that I'm going to live to a really long lifespan, at least 120 I have in my head as a minimum age that I'll live. And I don't know why I've got that, but it's always been a strong belief that I will live to a ripe old age. And so I was looking for a guy that would be healthy in terms of being able to share that with me on that journey towards that.
And I think that's such a very important statement. I too are, 93 is minimum, 103, we want to go there. And the fact that you're looking for somebody that is healthy is important to you, and it should be. And even if you found a George Clooney lookalike and he wasn't healthy, it wouldn't benefit you to bring him into your life.
No, but I suppose where I was leading this conversation was in a previous relationship. The guy that I did attract had got binge drinking, alcohol issue. But I wasn't in a situation where I said, this is something you have to quit. In other words, I wasn't telling him what to do. But what I did say was what I just said to you, in that I value health and I intend to live to a ripe old age, and I'm looking for a guy that's going to match that. And within a couple of weeks, he quit. After being alcohol dependent and binge drinking most of his adult life, within literally a few weeks he quit and stayed sober throughout our relationship. So that was something that can change for somebody if they value your values enough.
Yes, and I think what you were bringing there, and that's what I really love about what you said, is that I'm sure our listeners will know, because we talk to women who are, coaches, consultants, professionals, even if they are moms, whatever they are intelligent human beings. And also, we all went to school and did mathematics. And what you were saying there is a bit of quantum physics, because we know everything is energy. The microwave's energy, space is energy. But what happened, and perhaps I'm assuming, not an assumption, I'm just giving my interesting point of view, is that the energy of health that you were very attractive to this person, so attractive to him that it was more important than his drinking.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it made me very emotional, actually, when he said that, he took his last, we met on the 3rd of January he quit on the 7th of February was when he quit. So literally within 4 weeks, he had made that decision, because I'd said what I wanted and I didn't dictate to him that he should quit. I didn't tell him that if he wants me that he should quit the drink. What I said was what I wanted, and that's the way to communicate your values to somebody in the early days of a relationship. And they'll either meet that desire for you, or they won't, and you'll have to make a decision based on that, whether that's acceptable to you or not.
I think you've touched on something very important there. I do believe that boundaries in a relationship should be set right in the beginning, because a relationship is a business. It's a business between two people, in a relationship. And if it were just a business, we would have boundaries. We'd have boundaries with our staff. We'd have boundaries for ourselves, our finances, and how the business would be run. But when we go into a relationship, we usually so fixated on the wonderful passion of this relationship that we seem to overlook the boundaries until about 2 years later. And then we found that while we were in the what I call in South Africa it'd be the Pick and Pay, maybe for you it's Walmart, or in the UK it might be Woolworths or Marks and Spencer's. We're sort of in the aisle in Marks and Spencer's looking for love, and somebody else is in the next aisle and they're looking for love, and boom, there we found each other. and isn't that lovely? But then we don't do process and look into this relationship and say, I have a boundary, and I can tell you what mine is. So my boundary is I need to tell you that for me, I need to be loved no matter what. So the minute you don't love me, I need to know. So I need honesty. I'm talking about brutal honesty. And the other boundary that I would have would be, for myself personally, would be about integrity. So you're cheating, best you come tell me, and tell me quickly so we can sort it out. So there should be boundaries, and you can have your own, and I'm sure the women out there all should have a boundary. And a lot of boundaries should be me first. I look after myself.
Yes.
I love myself. And that is so important, and women forget that. They forget loving themselves. They think they're loving themselves, but what they do is 95% of the passion and the energy goes into creating a space for this partner of theirs, and they forget who they are.
Yeah, guilty is charged. I've certainly been there.
I've done it, yes.
So don't beat yourselves up, listeners, if you can relate to that. We've all been guilty of that, and it's not your fault. It's just a case of we need to learn from this and know better next time, isn't it?
Yes, and I think that's the beauty of it, is that we evolve as women. Women are very, very resilient, very determined, very inspirational, and very loving human beings. And I think, I can talk just for myself. As I've got, reached this ageless aging of 71, I care for myself much more. I'm more tolerant. I have more patience with myself. And I do make sure that just occasionally, once a week, I do, for me it's more than once a week, but could be for anybody else, that I give myself that Jenny time that is just for me. And I make sure that there's a lot of self-love. And we don't want to confuse self-love with self-care, because, giving yourself a pedicure and curling your hair is not self-love. Self-love is far more than that. It's expressing who you are by taking some time alone for yourself, to take a walk in nature, to have a huge bubble bath, to read something you really want to do, or to even travel, to the next city by yourself and have a perfect day. And when I say that to my clients, they say, but you can't have a perfect day when you're just by yourself. But honestly, it's the ultimate love experience, a perfect day for yourself, just yourself, giving your time out of the relationship so you can come back in after 12 hours or whatever it was, just maybe a 3-hour trip, and know that you did something for you. And I think that's a huge part of finally finding the love of your life at any age, is finding you first, and then bringing somebody into your life as a partner, for a relationship.
But attracting that cherry on the top of your already fabulous
Correct.
cake, as I call it. It's funny you should mention about self-love, because I posted an inspirational quote on Facebook on my personal page today around that, and it says, on the days that you find it hard to look in the mirror, remember there is a myth which says the face you have in this life is the face of the person you loved most in a past life. And I know it's just a myth, but imagine how much more love you would give to yourself if that myth was true.
I think that is absolutely magnificent. I haven't seen the post yet, but I'm going to go and comment on it, because what you just said, as you were saying that my skin was tingling, it so resonated, because isn't that beautiful? It's just, it made me think, of course, yes, hallelujah, yes. So beautiful, beautiful statement there. That's the gift of the day.
Yeah. Oh, it's only recently, come to my notice, and I thought, I've got to post that.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. You should post it again.
I will. I'll post it regularly, because I do feel that's, a very strong statement that just makes the point that we've been trying to make throughout this podcast around, it starts with ourselves, and, giving ourselves that love first and foremost, before then being in a great vibrational energy state to then attract the best, potential partner for ourselves.
Yes, I I resonate with that as well, because I believe that the only thing blocking you is the belief that you have that you need to be more than you are to attract a man that is in alignment with you. And it's when we take that block away, or unclutter that block, or untether that block, that we our attractive powers of creating the man of our dreams arrive. It's when we allow ourselves to be our there's a part in a woman, an untouchable self, an untouchable part, and it always reminds me of a young girl, that the innocent, free, vibrant spirit of the younger you. And when we allow that out at any age, that is a huge part of creating this energy that attracts somebody into our life. And it's not like we going out there and finding them. They arrive.
They arrive, definitely. We attract it. We don't need to chase it. We don't need to chase it at all. And
absolutely.
If you're in that great vibrational state, you'll naturally attract it. And you don't need to worry about, when we talk about finding love at a certain age, you need to worry about not finding a man that, of a similar age, or thinking that will only attract older men. All my boyfriends, I'd say, throughout my adult life, and including my ex-husband as well, were younger than me. And I'm still attracted. Well,
there's a train of thought that goes like the following. I think it's more for men than women, but it could be for women as well. It was told to me by a man. The man was 76, and he said he was told to cut his age in half, which would make him 30, I don't know, what would it make him, 34, something like that? No, not 34, but half his age, and then add 20. So the ladies he was looking for would be 50, not 76. And, well, that's just a personal thing. But if I had to cut my age in half plus 20, say a 50-year-old might be too young for me, but 60 upwards, that would be totally okay for me, depending on who they are and what their personality, their traits. And obviously for me, it would be that they were mature at at that age. So younger is good. What's the difference? Two people meet and it's fantastic. I watched a video online the other day. I thought it was a bit much, though. I think he was 38 and she was nearly 100. Then sort of blurs the lines a little bit. And you wonder what's involved. But otherwise, it's not about that. It's about what is going to bring passion, vibrancy, aliveness to your life now.
Absolutely.
And then relate to, that to a partner. So good for you for having younger boyfriends. That's wonderful.
Well, I always get upset when I see women saying, oh, I'm 50 and, there's not going to be anyone out there for me. Or if there are, the only ones that are going to find me attractive are going to be in their 60s or 70s. That's definitely not been my experience at all. And I know that doesn't have to be theirs. That's the truth. It doesn't have to be theirs either. It's only if you adopt that sort of mindset and end up focusing on that will be your reality, isn't it?
I think it would. It's absolutely about your reality. And what your reality was, or your perceived reality of what you wanted 20 years ago, has changed drastically to today. And in a year's time, after this craziness in the world has, settled down, our realities will change again. And I think our realities will bring in a lot of, because we've been in survival mode for this crazy time, all of us, maybe we'll be looking for laughter and joy and to celebrate life. And the partners that we be looking for will, hopefully bring, and I know hope is a hopeless strategy, so let's recount that one, but we'll bring in partners into our lives that will emulate that, a passion for life.
Yes. I agree with that. For me, my value has been more around, like you say, passion for life, having peace is a big one, and fun and laughter. That those are real good qualities that I'm looking for in a partner, as well as doing my best to exude that within my own life as well.
Yeah, well, you do exude it, so you better watch out and see what's going to arrive soon.
Absolutely. So any other wise words of wisdom, Jenny, that you want to share before we wrap up around, finding love at any age?
What I think is what I could say is there is no age restriction in finding love. There is a change in your thinking, because whatever you think, you will bring into your life. So, I'm on a mission to transform the way people think about love, and the way I think about love, and the way I think about how we create a prince to come into our life. And it's not by accident, it's by design. And for me, it's just plain and simple. If you want to bring somebody into your life, write down your top 5 values, have a look at what they are for you, and then create from there. Don't be a lazy creator. Don't just take whatever's on the shelf, because you don't do that in the supermarket. You're usually looking for price there, or for what you really want. So when you go and look for chocolates, and don't always take I don't know if they have them in England, but so the orange chocolate or the mint chocolate, try something new, try and be different. And by changing your thinking about how to create a new relationship with somebody, just by changing your thinking, everything will change. And I think that's really it for me.
I couldn't agree more. Yes, I subscribe to, what you focus on, you attract. So if you're going to be focusing on, things that create lack in your life, then that's what you'll experience more of. So it's, like you say, all switching that mindset around to focusing on what you do want, and then attracting that into your life and experiencing more of that.
I think, sorry, in closing, I just thought of something that may help the ladies out there. So when you're thinking about, so the thought is, well, I want to attract somebody into my life. What do I really want? Here's a tip for you. Before you do that, put your hand on your heart. Everybody knows where their heart is. Put your hand on your heart and then ask the question, what do I really want in a man? And you'll be surprised what answers come up for you, because you'll be answering from a different space. It's when your hand's on the heart, it's very hard for the mind to hijack and use the computer to answer you. There's no algorithm when your hand's on your heart. So I think that's my tip for the day.
Brilliant. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom, Jenny, and that final exercise is superb.
And thank you for having me.
Just leaves me to say so much gratitude to you for coming on to the podcast episode today, Jenny.
It was wonderful to be here, and I'm sure that we will catch up again some month in 2021 for the next episode. And I so appreciate you. Much love to you, and thank you.
You're very welcome. So what would be your best contact for our audience to be able to get in touch with you, Jenny? I'll make sure, obviously, as usual, we'll have all of it in our
I think it would be my Facebook page, the author page, my Facebook author page. We can use that one. I'll make sure that you have the link to that one, because it's public. So anybody that wants it, and it's got a message button on, and they could find me there, JennySchmal, and my author page on Facebook.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I'll share all that information.
Thank you so much. In
our show notes. So it just leaves me to say that if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, share, leave a review, and thank you so much for listening in today. It's always very much appreciated, and it means the world to me. So I'll just sign off by saying true love starts with opening our hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.